Thanks, Sarah. So I'm going to take the second half, and we only have 25 minutes left, so it's going to have to be relatively quick. I do want to mention that next Tuesday we'll be doing a half-day boot camp covering the same two topics. So rather than only an hour, we'll have about 4 hours total between these two subjects, and in that time we'll be doing more hands-on brainstorming for students who attend to walk through strategies for Instagram and influencer marketing for their businesses, or if they're an influencer themselves, how to grow that business. And we'll be going deeper into case studies and examples, which I'll show a few of in this presentation. But to get started and make sure we're moving along, here's an outline of what I'm going to be talking about today. I'm going to briefly discuss what an influencer is, the difference between influencers and partners, the difference between B2B and B2C influencer marketing, and then some tactics for getting started, including finding influencers, evaluating influencers, building relationships, creating campaigns and compensation strategies for influencer campaigns, and then how to build a program over time. So quickly to define what an influencer is, I'll let you read this quickly rather than just read it out loud, and then we'll go on. So influencers are typically individuals with a personal brand. They've built an audience on social media, including YouTube and podcasting, usually as part of the strategy, not always. It can be purely one platform like Instagram, but often really strong influencers include all the above. Most influencers start out as enthusiasts of a subject, building knowledge base about it online, and then eventually they become so well followed that they can monetize their following by selling their own products and or partnering with brands to promote theirs that align with their audience. So an example of this would be my friend Matt Frazier, who runs this website called the No Meat Athlete. He's local, and that's his cookbook on the right there. He sells these marathon roadmaps. So he started out as someone who was personally interested in vegan diets and training for marathons. And so he was doing the same, training on a vegan diet, and started blogging about it. And this was about, about 10 years ago or a little bit less. And it wasn't for a year or so into it that he started trying to figure out a way to make money at it. And within a year or two, he had quit his college, his grad school, started doing this full time. And now he supports a family of 4 with several full-time employees. He just launched a vegan supplement company. He's got 2 cookbooks, or 1 cookbook and 1 more motivational book. I think he has another book coming out. He's maybe starting another sub-brand for cooking. I talked to him about that last week. And he's getting paid to speak. He's getting paid to promote other brands. And all this is through his blog, where he started just as a personal enthusiast and more of a kind of a personal exploration more than anything at first, and has grown to this. So there's hundreds of thousands of examples like this all over different niches. And so he's a great influencer for 2 of our clients that I can talk about later. So what is influencer marketing? Influencer marketing is when brands utilize influencers to promote promotions and content. So it's when the brands focus more on targeting the individual influencers rather than going after the entire market and working through the influencers to reach that market. Next, it includes building relationships with these influencers. And then once a relationship is established, you can compensate the influencer to run campaigns about your products and services. So I did a little research on some of the best campaigns. Now, big brands usually work with really big influencers, including, example, Kylie Jenner, or any other celebrity that's also got a following of people wanting to sort of idolize them. There are also a lot of outdoor adventure enthusiasts such as Devin Graham, who's listed in this case study I'm showing on the screen, and he's done a lot of influencer campaigns for various brands. But this is an example. This video here is something that he did for Subaru. So he created a great viral video that promoted the Subaru products, and it went viral because of the content, and therefore it associated Subaru with really cool content. And that's a big part of what the big brands want to do with influencer marketing. With small businesses, you have to be a little bit more specific, because just a viral video is unlikely to hit unless you're someone like Devin who does these for a living. And so you have to be a little bit more thoughtful, and we'll talk about more about that in a little while. So influencers versus partners. Influencers are usually individuals, but partners can be more than that. You can have partnerships between businesses, between companies and nonprofits, between businesses and their peers who provide similar services that aren't competitive with them, or even with some like overlapping competitors. So when I do partner marketing, I usually kind of combine influencer marketing with partnership marketing. But this conversation today is purely about influencer marketing. So I just want to talk a little about differentiation there. Usually behind an influencer, there's one person who doesn't necessarily have a large consumer brand or service company. Often they're trying to monetize purely their influence through, and that can be through monetizing teaching, through monetizing writing, becoming a freelance journalist, or other things like that. There's also usually a component of social media where they're communicating directly with their following, and that's where you can use them to, you can partner with them to communicate about your products and services. So the B2B versus B2C. B2B, this is business to business. Business influencers are typically niche bloggers. Sometimes they're consultants that have a blog following. Seth Godin would be a great example. He's probably the pinnacle B2B influencer. Gary Vaynerchuk, pinnacle B2B influencer. There's plenty of others that are a little bit more on the journalism side, or a little bit more on the social media YouTube side, but academics can be in this category, industry bloggers, authors. That you can work with those types to work on business-to-business influencer strategies. B2C, it's more lifestyle bloggers, YouTube producers, niche celebrities who are focusing on consumer products or consumer lifestyle, like travel, like makeup, like beauty products, fashion. Athletes are often B2C. They have their following around their athletic ability. They can talk about brands that are aligned with their athletic activities. Activists, people who are doing work in nonprofit, environmentalism, they can have a following, and they can talk about things related to what they do, which can align with brands, products, and services. And authors, anyone who's speaking about a general topic that has an author following, whether that's ebook authors or published authors, they can be influencers. They can be worked with as your services if you align with what they're talking about. So someone who writes a lot of content about hiking might be a great influencer to work with if you have an outdoor gear company, for example. So moving on to a little bit more depth here. In my experience, it only takes one successful influencer working with your brand to build a foundation. There's a couple of reasons for this. One is one successful influencer relationship, if it's the right one, can drive sustainable, low-cost sales. It's also likely that influencers have relationships with other influencers. If they like working with you, they will introduce you to others. You can also show other influencers one successful campaign and say, look what we did here. We'd like to do something similar with you. And all those factors make it so that if you can just get one good relationship going, you can start a bigger campaign that will grow over time. So, example, I worked for the Holistic Holiday at Sea Vegan Cruise, which is listed on the right-hand side of this website. This website's a little bit overwhelming with the content, but the guy in most of these pictures, the guy with the Superman shirt on, the guy posing without a shirt on, and the selfies at the bottom are the same person, and he is the influencer. His name is Robert Cheek. He is the first all-vegan bodybuilder. He's now in his late 30s, early 40s, and he's basically retired from active bodybuilding, but now he works with a community of bodybuilders. He owns this website. It's the largest website for vegan bodybuilding. He has the largest Facebook group, the largest Instagram. He's now a motivational speaker. He's written 3 books, including the one at the top left, Plant-Based Muscle. He goes around and he promotes different things. He works with NASCAR. He works with the Fit Expo, which is the largest brand of fitness conferences in the country, 100,000 people every month in cities all over the country. And he runs their vegan track of their content, which has gotten really popular. He gets paid by vegan organizations, companies, and nonprofits to promote that basically on an ongoing basis. But he was my first relationship for the Holistic Holiday at Sea Vegan Cruise, and his one successful promotion in 2011, which only generated a $20,000 to $30,000 in sales the first year, was a trade. You get a free ticket. That has led to now an influencer and partner program, which I estimate has generated over $1 million in sales in the last 12 months. And it hasn't cost us much more to scale it than it does just to maintain about a dozen partnership relationships on a quarterly or semi-annual basis. A very effective strategy. So here's a little bit about getting started. You can start searching blogs, search blog and then the topic, and you can find blogs. Google used to have a separate search engine for blogs. They shut that down. You can use other blog search tools such as BuzzSumo. So a short-term contract with BuzzSumo, short-term membership would be wise for influencer search. You can look for well-connected customers within your customer base. Sometimes a good place to start would be somebody who already loves your product, who has a following. Do a partnership with them and get the influencer program going. This can work really well for any B2C company, and in some cases B2B companies as well. Look at your competitors and your peers. Who are they working with? Get an introduction to their influencers, or reach out, especially if you're talking about non-competitive peers, companies you're already collaborating with as partners. You may be able to find an influencer strategy that overlaps with what they're doing. Just purely searching on Instagram is a great place to start. Search for certain hashtags and keywords, look for people who are talking about them, make a list in a spreadsheet, and then reach out to them to start figuring out how they handle paid promotions and partnerships. And then there's influencer platforms. I'm a little bit skeptical about influencer platforms. I'm going to talk more about these next week. A lot of companies want to just make this easy, so they want to hire an influencer agency or do an influencer platform, which allows you to set up campaigns and influencers to buy into them, or helps you search for influencers. I've had a dead end on these so far in my career. I think personal relationships are better. I think personal search and personalized outreach is better. So I'm a big fan of doing it yourself or hiring an agency specializing in it that's very specialized in your industry, rather than going with these platforms. For example, I was going to show one. I went to search for it yesterday when I was working on this presentation, and I found out that my favorite one is out of business, and it was working last week, and they've gone out of business because of Facebook and Instagram revoking their API authorization because they're doing too many searches and other reasons. This one worked pretty well, but even within this one, I exported the top 200 vegan influencers recently for a client, and I found that very few of them overlap with the ones I know for a fact are the top vegan influencers. I found very few of the top that I know about in their results. So it meant that the algorithm wasn't very good yet, and it's still getting better. Actually, the best ones cost $3,000 to $5,000 a month because they have humans doing the research, and then they just sell the data and the research to people, and they start building relationships with them and sell those relationships as campaign strategy and development. That's expensive. Bigger brands can afford that. Smaller brands have to either do it themselves or hire a small agency like us to help them with it. So evaluating influencers, there's a couple things you have to do when you're trying to figure out if you want to work with an influencer. You start with the size of their social following. So most influencers have one platform where they're the strongest. It's often either Instagram, Facebook, or YouTube. Then they always have usually some presence on all the other platforms, including potentially Twitter and Pinterest, or Twitter and sometimes Snapchat, others as well. So you want to look at what's their strongest platform, and does that align with what your goals and the kind of campaigns you want to develop? And then what are their secondary and third platforms, and how strong are they? So you can create a spreadsheet with multiple tabs with the name of the influencer, their personal name, the name of their brand if it's separate, the link to their website and their main channels, and then the numbers for their channels. And that helps you organize and get ready to start. So you want to know what they have at Instagram, YouTube, Facebook first. And then, like I said, others, it would be wise to check if you want to go deeper. And then you want to understand why they're speaking to their influencers. So let me give you a couple examples. So I worked with 2 vegan brands, one that does a cruise and one that does a retreat in Florida. And in both cases, we want to work with influencers who are speaking to their audience of other vegans for health, wellness, and fitness reasons, because those are the things that these programs provide. So an influencer who has 200,000 followers because they are talking about losing weight on a vegan diet or getting fit on a vegan diet, those are going to be a better fit than a fashion influencer who has 1 million followers who happens to be vegan and she may talk about that every day. But if people are following her because of her appearance or because of her product descriptions and talking about brands that are in the fashion space or even the yoga space maybe, but not so much about the fact that she talks about recipes and veganism or getting fit or losing weight, then those wouldn't be a good fit, even if it has a larger audience. Doesn't necessarily mean we wouldn't work with them. To have to have a realistic expectation of the results. So I'm speaking with someone tomorrow who has a large following, I think 1 million people, but I looked at her stuff and she mostly talks about fashion and about a little bit about yoga, but not so much about the benefits of vegan diets or her own experiences with them or her own travels. So therefore, it might not be as effective for either of my clients. Then you really want to look at engagement level. This is one of the most important things. You can buy followings on social media. So if you have a bunch of unengaged followers that were purchased, they're not going to be as effective. So in my experience, one person with 20,000 extremely engaged followers, where the influencer has their email addresses, they have them on Facebook and Instagram, and they're responding at really high levels to their content, will be much more effective than 1 million followers who are very unengaged. So my sweet spot for me is 10 to 20,000 to start as followers, up to, for larger brands, 30 to 50,000. You can get a lot done with that size of a following. Less than 5,000 can be hard, just because of the organic reach issues with social media. So are they growing their following? And what is their primary motivation? So people have a primary motivation of educating their following, providing valuable, integrous content will do a lot better for you than someone who's at it for the money or at it for the personal vanity. So you have to figure that out by looking at their content, understanding their brand, and understanding how much they're growing over time. Alan, I would say that 5,000 followers is small for an influencer. 10 to 20 is better, 10 to 20,000 for most brands. Now, if you're doing something hyper local, then 5,000 might be enough. You have to understand the organic reach potential is usually 1 to 5%. So if it's only 1% of 5,000, it's going to be 50 people. And if 50 people seeing something, you can get 50 people to see something more easily with Google ads or Facebook ads than you're working with an influencer. So Laura, that's a great question. I'm going to get to that next. The main way I look at it is look at their social posts and see the numbers. So if someone has 40,000 followers like Matt Fraser on No Meat Athlete's Instagram, is regularly getting 700 to 1,000 likes and 20 to 100 comments, it means his engagement is real and the people are engaging with his content. If these were 50 or 100 and 0 to 10 comments, it would mean he'd have a very small percentage of his followers are engaging. So I've seen, people would regularly get 1,000 to 2,000 hearts on Instagram with a similar size following. His following is not extremely engaged. Instagram's not his main platform. Email is his main platform. So email and his own blog, if he's doing to do those things for us, it's going to be worthwhile. Instagram's just like a icing on the cake working with Matt. Other partners, Instagram's their main platform, and you better hope they have massive engagement for it to be worthwhile. So one of our partners she has a very strong following on YouTube and on Instagram. Her YouTube videos get 20 to 100,000 views every single time, and usually 100 to 500 comments. That is highly engaged. We can communicate inside the comments with her followers as they engage with the content that are promoting our products, and that's always going to work. That's an example. So that's Alan. That's the next section. So getting started. Well, it's actually the next segment after it's one after this section. So I'm running out of time. We'll certainly be going over this much more detail next week, but I'm going to try to get through these next two or three slides in the next 5 minutes, and then we'll have a little bit of time to cover the last section. So in my experience, the best way to reach influencers is a personal introduction. So if you have, like I said, peers working with them, an existing relationship with an influencer who's a friend or already working with you, that personal introduction is going to be 95% of the time it's going to work to get started. Direct email outreach is my next favorite. So if you can find an email address, send an email. Lately, I've been really working with some bigger influencers where I've been redirected to their agency, management agency, or their personal assistant, and that's been going slower for some of them. So get personal introduction to their personal email is better. Direct message on social media. This is really effective on Instagram. So messaging them directly to try to get a phone call. Or get their email address to start an email conversation. So Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook are the most valuable for DM in this order. And then I like face-to-face meetings. So Zoom and Skype are my favorite because you're trying to build a real relationship. So just doing emails doesn't really cut it. Phone calls can be okay, but getting a face-to-face, it feels more like you're meeting with them at a coffee shop, even though you don't have to do that. So that helps you kind of build a stronger rapport with them from the beginning. And then you have to follow up and stay organized. So, even if you're not doing anything with them yet, just stay in touch, talk to them about what you're working on, check in with them quarterly. If you're doing something active with them, then check in as often as you need to. And you need to come up with a personal project management system that allows you to remember and not forget to follow up. So, example, when I started working with Robert Cheek from the vegan bodybuilding brand, this is my first email to him in September. It was almost exactly 8 years ago. So I emailed him. Just this is the exact letter that I sent him. You can see that I introduced myself and the program. I gave him the dates and the size of the group, told him what the promotion would be. He would be a group leader. He would get $75 per person. He would get a free ticket. I told him he could rep some of his other clients. He was a promoter of several vegan brands. I can give him a free booth. You can do samples. You can do a book signing. And then I gave him some ideas about other ways he could get involved and what we could do to help support him. Give him, materials for an email, materials for Facebook. And then I told him that I was personally interested in vegan fitness myself, and I was a student of Kung Fu and martial arts, and then I had my own fitness blog, just to connect with him on a personal level at the end, to make it seem more than just me reaching out from a company to really connect with him. So I basically jumped on, this email was sent and he didn't respond to this. So I had set a reminder to reach out to him again. A few weeks later, I reached out to him again. He told me he's sorry, he'd been traveling. We set up a phone call. I talked to him on the phone, got him to commit. He came, he got 20 people the first year. There was a ripple effect. I saw more people coming from his efforts than just the ones who said they were, coming through him, and just kept going and going until now he's introduced us to 4 or 5 of our most effective influencers who now do better than him even in the most recent years. And we can also show the examples of his work and others to show to other influencers. So we're getting close on, we're basically out of time. We'll keep going, but if you have to jump off, you can get the recording. We'll share the recording with everybody. We have a workshop next Tuesday where we'll go very deep into these things. We'll have more like 90 minutes each to talk about these topics rather than 20 minutes each. But things you can do as compensation: you can give them product, you can give them experiences like we do with the cruise and the retreat center. You can do results based, where you give them a tracking code or a commission or an affiliate relationship where they get a percentage of all the sales that they deliver. You can do a flat retainer where you pay them a monthly fee, starting as low as $200 a month up to $1,000 a month, to be like basically a paid ambassador for your brand. You can sponsor their website or their blog and trade what they do for you as part of the promotion. So those are some examples of ways you can compensate influencers. Depends on your business and your business model, but any of those will work. These are the most common ways. So here's an example of a package we put together. We did a vegan cruise giveaway. 2 of these people listed are our influencers. Robert's in the middle. He's our favorite one. And then they, as part of their annual contract, they have to do 4 sales promotions and 1 list building promotion. This is the list building promotion, and this generated 20,000 email addresses in 1 month, mostly through these influencers. So we'll talk more about how to organize campaigns and promote campaigns like this next week. So building a program over time. I've done with Robert, and this is not just for Robert, this is for my own business, this is for other clients. You can leverage relationships over time. You can also grow with your influencers. So when I started working with Robert in 2011, he had 20,000 people on Facebook and 0 on Instagram. Now he has 300,000 on Facebook and 100,000 on Instagram. So he's not our largest promoter on Instagram, and he doesn't have any on YouTube, and one of our biggest promoters now have 500,000 on YouTube. Those are people he introduced us to. So we grew with him as he worked on his personal brand and worked on other events, worked on other conferences, worked on other co-promotions, bundles that he was promoting his own products and services. He met new people. He liked our program. He introduced them to us, either in person or over email. I had video calls with them, and not only is he doing better now because of his influence has grown, he is the #1 source of the new influencers for us. So next week, we'll do live brainstorming with the participants. We'll do existential examples and case studies, including B2B, and we'll do a live Q&A. We are really out of time, so just wanted to remind everybody, we have the workshop next week, Tuesday. I think it starts at 8:30, goes to 12:30. Is that right? Starts at coffee at 8:30. 8:30 to 1. 8:30 to 1. This is in Asheville. Then we have our next online training program, which is 12 weeks, starting next Tuesday as well, where we have weekly calls like this and lots of content within 5 tracks of learning. And then every month we have a call like this, and you'll get reminders about that, but you can go ahead and sign up now for a month from today. So we're really out of time, but I can go for just a few more minutes. And if anyone has any questions regarding what I've shared today.
Yeah, so thanks, Justin. I know everybody, we're just about at 5 after 1, so if you need to sign off, please go ahead. But if you have any questions, feel free to type them in. And especially you, Alan, hopefully Justin's slide about compensation and the different ways you can connect with people made sense. If you have any other questions about that, feel free to chat them in.
Thanks, everybody. I just want to emphasize that next week we will be doing active brainstorming. So anyone who wants me to walk them through ideas for their specific business, I will do that. And if we run out of time, even at the workshop, I can do short follow-ups with people who are there who have want to do that brainstorming. And then Laura, it depends. Often they do. It's technically legally required that they mention when something's a paid promotion or a sponsored post. You can say this is from my partner, and name the company that's partnering with them. Yeah, so technically there's actually I think it's FCC requirement that they communicate when they're being paid to do something. So it's a little bit of a gray area, depends on the promotion, but most of the time the best influencers are really transparent about it anyway. So some of them will go as far as putting hashtag ad if it's really kind of an advertisement, but it's better if it's more authentic, like they actually like the product, they're talking about why they like it, and mentioning that they're getting compensated with free product and or commission. And a lot of times if their followers are really passionate about them, they'll want to buy products that support the influencer's business if the influencer genuinely likes the product. And if they genuinely like the product, they're going to be good at promoting it. So you don't want to coerce or manipulate influencers into promoting your stuff. That's not going to work. It's not going to land well with their audience. It's best to find people who really love your product and then incentivize them to talk about it more often than they would organically. And that's the best case scenario, in my opinion.
All right. right. Well, again, thank you all so much. We're going to go ahead and sign off. But I did share my email, Sarah with an H at jbmediagroupllc.com, and Justin shares his usually as well. So if you have any questions, you want clarifications on something, feel free to reach out. And if you're in the Asheville area, hopefully we will see you next Tuesday at our workshop. But thank you all so much for joining us, and we hope to connect with you again at our next digital drop-in on October 3rd.